Oh, guys. All right, guys. I have a story to tell.
Is it creepy?
No, it's just kind of sad.
Is it
No.
kooky?
Okay.
Is it altogether ooky?
A little ooky. Now, the other day, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to the drive-in because here in Southern California, we do have some drive-ins open. All the movie theaters are closed.
You lucky son of a bitch.
And I'm like, I'm going to go to the drive-in. Me, myself, and I'm going to go. I wanted to go, so there's this one drive-in called the Mission Tiki Drive-In, but it's like 36-something miles from my house. It's a little farther than I wanted to drive, but they had like a Goonies, Gremlins double feature. I was like, I want to check that out. But
I do recommend that place if you feel like making a very long drive. But
it's a little far. It's even farther for Casey.
Very long.
Yeah.
So,
It's even farther for Chris. Jesus Christ.
I was going to say, the nearest drive-in for me is like 3 hours, but continue, please.
yeah. But there's another drive-in called the Vineland Drive-In. They have like some newer releases showing, and one of them was The Rental, the new film by Dave Franco, the new thriller. So I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go. So I leave. I left about like maybe an hour before, which I should have left a little earlier, to be fair. And then I'm looking at my windshield. I'm like, it's a little dirty. I'm going to a drive-in. I want to make sure I can see okay out of it. So I go to my Shell gas station car wash that's like 5 minutes from my house. Get it cleaned. My snack of choice for this drive-in is a tub of trail mix with M&Ms in it. It's not too bad. Some salty, some sweet. It's not going to get like melty in my car. And I have my like water thermos. So I'm heading over there. And immediately as I like turn onto the street that the drive-in's on, Vineland, huge backup line of cars. I have no idea like how far this line is because I can't see the drive-in, the screens, anything like that. Way backed up. And I'm like, oh man, it's probably about 30 minutes before the film is supposed to start. So I'm in this line, not even in the actual like lot of the drive-in for at least like 15 minutes. I finally get to the lot. Huge backup. They have like the different rows of the different movies. You're supposed to get into a certain row to see what movie you want to see. I don't even see the ticket booth at this point. It's another like 15 minutes before I see the ticket booth. So I'm just looking at the clock going, oh man, am I going to make this movie? And it's just like counting down
in the car in front of you.
Every minute I'm just looking, oh man, it's getting closer. Eventually I turn the corner, I'm in like the right line for the rental, and then I see the ticket booth and it's just moving slow. And I can start to see the screens, and it looks like they start showing previews when the movie time is supposed to be, so like at a regular movie, so it's about like 10 minutes of previews from how I've timed it. So I'm like, okay, I might miss like a minute or two of the actual movie, but if I can get there within that time, I'll be okay. It's going slow as hell. I'm just wondering what the people in the ticket booths are doing, but I know their job's hard right now. So, inch by inch, get there. Finally, I get to the ticket booth. I take out my card. I see this girl. She has like a walkie-talkie. As I'm about to hand her my card, I hear a voice chime in on the walkie-talkie. Don't sell any more tickets for Screen 3. We're sold out. And she looks at me, and she's like, what movie are you here to see? And I'm like, pretty sure the one that's sold out. The rental.
Are you sure you weren't a cartoon cat in that situation? Because that sounds like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Can I tell you, Chris, that this isn't the first time that this has happened to Zach, and specifically only Zach?
This is the most depressing time. So she tells me that, and I'm like, where's the exit? And then I have trouble finding the exit because it's so dark and they have like no lights where the exit is, and it looks like a freaking like alley where you're gonna get shanked by somebody. And it took me like a second to drive around the whole thing.
That's where you just pull into the theater you're supposed to go into and be like, oh, this wasn't the exit?
Of course, though. Like, the person before me got in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we went to Monsterpalooza once and tried to park in the hotel parking. And they told Zach they were full, made him turn around and leave. And then they let me and my friends in, the car directly after Zach. They let us in and let us park. And, you know, like 10 other people.
Yeah, that was BS. I remember that day. But I did find a space and I got into the convention. Here, I just wasted my time.
What day of the week was this, Zach?
It was a Saturday, so I mean, it was...
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Rookie mistake.
I should have gotten there early, but, you know...
Cardinal rule when I lived in Los Angeles, don't do anything on a Saturday. Just don't.
My brief
home.
experience of a movie drive-in is I prefer like the picnic style screenings outdoor where you can sit on the ground, and it's much less stressful, but obviously that's not viable in this environment.
Sit on the ground, cough on people.
Maybe I'll try again. Also, it's probably better to go with somebody. But, you know.
Nah, dude. Going to movies by yourself is self-therapy.
Like a regular movie. I'm saying a drive-in in particular by yourself. I don't know. But
you just do that thing where you wrap your arms around you and you're turning yourself around and it looks like you're making out with somebody.
Yeah. I thought about
it. They do it like Fonzie did on the Happy Days.
Mm-hmm. I should have just parked and blocked the exit and started to do that, and then just really confused everybody. Yeah. So that was my driving experience.
Good times.
That was a riveting.
That was such a riveting story. I want to end the episode right now.
All right, everybody, welcome to another Missable Podcast, the Pepsi-free of horror podcasts. No one asked for us, but we're here nonetheless. My name is Zach.
Coke for life. Coke for life. All right.
I edit this thing. Joining me, as always, are my equally miserable co-hosts, live from Tom Atkins' basement. He's got a PhD in full chi, Professor Casey.
Hi. Thrill me, Zach. Thrill me.
And also with us, the Lord of the Barnes & Noble Criterion Sale and the Keymaster of Wes Anderson, Chris Pistol, ladies and gentlemen.
Pepsi.
So you guys are on board with the Pepsi Free of Horror podcast? I figured that was a good...
No, dude.
That fit us,
I like to drink Pepsi in the summer and Coke in the winter.
Because if you think about it, who's looking for a caffeine-free Pepsi? You go elsewhere for that. The reason you want a Pepsi or a Coke.
I would like to say, please don't leave us to our Mormon listeners right now.
That guy in the movie Reefer Madness, who when the one guy is like, "You want to go for a soda pop?" and he's like, "I don't touch that stuff.
I want the reefer."
Exactly.
Instead. We should do the whole podcast in that voice. Oh, so we watched Nights of the Creeps and Creeps.
I thought it was really swell, pal.
So speaking of drive-ins and double features, we got a little double feature for you today. One of them is a request from one of our good friends, listeners, and the other is a movie we just wanted to talk about because we needed to wash the taste of this first film out. But
guys, thank you for all these recommendations. For real, we've had one good one. This wasn't it.
So this comes from our good buddy Kevin. Do you know Kevin Canarelli?
Kevin McAllister?
Kevin Canarelli, who did the wonderful artwork that is on our Twitter page, twitter.com/MPOSofficial. You can check out his work. You can check out him on Twitter at KG Canarelli. He is an amazing artist. He did some work on the upcoming Animaniacs show, which is launching soon.
What?
Definitely check out his Twitter account. He's a fantastic artist.
Good friend of me and the show, and he's willing to come on for one of our commentaries, so maybe you'll get to hear him on here eventually.
Yes. So today he requested Charles Band's The Creeps, which came out in 1997. Do you want to talk a little about the Band brothers, Casey, and kind of their line of work?
No, I just want to spend this time to say, Kevin, thanks, Dick. Look, let's just talk about Full Moon Pictures. Did a lot of movies with little things that move around and scare people. They really like puppets. They really like clay animation. And this time they're like, that shit's kind of expensive. Maybe we should just get little people instead. So they did. Creeps was originally called Deformed Monsters. They realized that the title's a little insensitive and they changed it. And let me tell you why it was insensitive. Because the whole plot of this movie, and I know, I'm going to tell you this and you're going to say, this premise sounds fucking amazing, I need to see this movie right away, but you really don't. But you probably should anyway, just because of the experience. A mad scientist tries to bring the universal monsters to life, but he messes up, and they come out as little people. Or in some cases, medium people. Little Frankenstein was a little too tall. Little Mummy, a little too tall.
His one sentence review of this is Frankenstein is too tall.
I'm imagining like being a studio executive and someone's pitching me that idea, and as soon as you lay it on me, I'm just like, Okay.
I feel like the writer Benjamin Carr, he had like a fun idea for like someone resurrecting the Universal monsters, and an executive was like, "Yeah, but what if they were little people?" And he was just like,
"Did the guy who come up with this actually Ed Wood?"
Well, you gotta remember, this is the time that they were making such masterpieces as Head of the Family, which is about a giant head that runs a family. So it was par for the course. This wasn't really something that stood out as weird in the Full Moon Library. It was just, oh, okay.
Sure.
That's there. I feel like they just
when
decided
you have movies like, what's that movie that should have been called Cowboys and Aliens, but it wasn't called Cowboys and Aliens?
Oh, God. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the
Oblivion.
name.
Oblivion.
Yes.
When you have Oblivion.
Well, the ones that they
bets are
plugged...
off.
Yeah, the Full Moon Pictures that it actually plugs within the movie here, because there's a scene in a video store that gratuitously decides to plug Full Moon movies are Head of the Family and another one that has the same girl that is in this movie as the main character. So it's a nice little in-joke there.
I feel like Full Moon is like Trauma without the weirdness, or without the like graphic just grossness.
I feel like Full Moon is like a non-self-aware Trauma. Sometimes
like diet Trauma.
Sometimes they are
like Pepsi
self-aware. Like, I mean, Killer Bong and Ginger Dead.
Let it go.
Killer Bong, Ginger Dead Man, those are pretty self-aware movies, but I think at this time period, not so much. They were actually trying. They always have really nice cinematography and everything looks really good despite whatever the movie is, maybe not being great or having great effects or anything like that. So yeah, this is definitely something that they sold to video stores based on the premise and decided we can't ship a blank tape, we might as well put something on here.
Oh, the video store in this movie is glorious with they have posters for like the worst movies.
It's got the Crow in there though, so I was cool with
There
that.
is a poster for D3, which I popped for.
Yes, the Mighty Ducks 3. And
So-
the Crow, neither of which are owned by Full Moon Pictures, by the way. Just so you guys know.
The problem with this film is that the premise is utterly ridiculous, and yet
Wait,
like,
you think there's one problem with this film?
well, okay, I'm saying the main problem is that the premise is like utterly ridiculous, but if you have something so like out there, you need to have as much fun with it as you can, and they like do nothing with this. First of all, the monsters don't even come into the picture until like 45 minutes into the movie.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's no Prehysteria 2 is what you're saying.
No, it is not, because the Prehysteria movies are cinematic masterpieces. This, holy shit. Okay, so it's worth seeing just to say you've seen it. Also, it has that feeling that Tammy and the T-Rex gives you that you wonder what the audience of the movie is. Because it's lightheaded, lighthearted. Oh, it's lightheaded too. Lighthearted comedy that maybe might go well for kids and it's not too scary, but then they're like, let's have some naked ladies in there.
Well, let's why don't we walk through it a bit? Chris hasn't seen it, so we can give him an idea of where this goes, because there is an
Wait.
element of this that I did like.
Wait, we weren't supposed to watch the episode of Adventure Time called The Creeps?
Sadly, no.
No, we were supposed to watch Charles Band's The Creeps.
This was a miscommunication.
And besides, if I was going to have us watch an Adventure Time episode, it would be the one where Lemon Grab eats the other Lemon Grab.
That is a pretty good one. But I don't know,
Yeah.
man. The Creeps is a pretty good classic. I watch that one around Halloween all the time.
It's a pretty good episode. It's much better than this movie. I think you made the correct choice. Despite it not being correct for this actual episode, I think you made a better choice overall for your life. Thanks again, Kevin. Okay, so I'll really condense this, Zach. Okay, I've got.
Go for it.
Okay, so we get what feels like an hour of a guy reading a book. He's stealing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from a library that has an original printing. Major continuity problems in this scene that's less than 3 minutes into the movie, where you can see he has a fake book to switch books before he takes the fake book out. There's just a bunch of scenes where he has two books on the table and it's not explained. And then it's like, aha! I somehow knew exactly what the cover looked like so that I can make two of them and then fill one with blank pages. And then there's like this librarian, and then there's the boss who has like rapey lesbian jokes attached to her, which are interesting.
Oh, she's trying to hit on her throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, which is interesting in what appears to be a kids movie otherwise. So eventually, librarian, the young victimized librarian, decides to hire a private detective
because if she gets caught, if it's like she discovers that the manuscript has been stolen, and if she works at this library where like priceless manuscripts are stored, and you need to have like gloves to go look at them, where this guy has switched out the manuscript. She discovers it's been stolen, so she hires a private detective, because if it's found out that it was stolen, she's like her job is gone.
Private detective that works at a video store because they couldn't afford a real private detective's office.
Chris, picture this: a private detective working out of a video store that he owns. This is like right up your alley, my friend. I'm like, how has there not been a TV series with this setup?
and I this is like
I'm still working on it, Zach. Just trust me. Just give me some time.
Has to be the least charismatic private detective / hero of a film in any film that I've ever seen.
And there's really odd, like, okay, I don't know if you noticed this, Casey, but in this scene where she goes to hire this detective, she goes into the back office, and they have a shot where behind him is this poster of like handguns, and it's like various size handguns, and it's very prominent. Like, for some reason, this poster is like very prominent in the background, and I'm just like, why is that there? Why is there an emphasis on this poster? Because it seemed like it was placed there on purpose.
He never uses a handgun.
No, he doesn't.
In the whole movie. Also, he looks like the guy that used to claim to have a Neo Geo when we were kids, but no one could play it because it was at his dad's house. So I don't like this guy. And
he's like the 10th Doctor. He's the man who never would. You know.
Yeah, it's just it's.
Zach nods his head like he understands the reference.
It's not good times. It's not good times. But we do get at least one good monster out of it. The mad scientist, he's somehow pulling the monsters out of actual literature, but he needs the first edition of the book for some reason. And he's got this machine that does a bunch of magical mumbo-jumbo to bring them to life, but something fucks up, and they're half the size.
Well, he needs like a sacrifice, so he ends up like kidnapping the librarian he comes back to the library to steal another manuscript, as she's hired this detective, but he hasn't really helped her yet. And so she's at the library, and he just comes back because he needs Bram Stoker's Dracula. And she's like onto him and is like, I'm going to call the cops. And she like tries to call the detective, and then he like electrocutes her with this weird gizmo. And
it's not a stun gun, because that would have made sense. It was some weird shit he made himself. And
he's like, this is on you. And he like starts to pretty much tell her his plan, which is just half-baked and ridiculous, and that he has to sacrifice someone between the age of 20 and 35, a female. She has to be naked. because
the producers demand it.
Which doesn't happen to this girl, and they tend to find like 5 ways around it, because
they lose that like prerequisite later on, after they try and sacrifice someone else who is naked, and it doesn't work. Anyway, this movie is ridiculous. So yeah, the detective comes and saves her, and they steal the original manuscripts, but the machine was already in motion, so they come out and they're half size. Dracula is played by the one and only Phil Fondacaro, who is absolutely the best part of the movie. And he's he's making the most of it. I just feel he deserves so much better.
He's always wanted to play Dracula, clearly. Like, he's into this. He has the most painful looking sclera covering contact lenses on too, which are not fun to wear. And I'm sure were even worse back then than they are now. And he really does great in his role. A little wordy, like they had him saying paragraphs of text every time he spoke, but none of the other monsters talk, so you kind of needed it. I have problems with these monster designs, by the way. The Wolfman's clearly a bat. Like, they just stuck a furry mask on the guy. He doesn't even have a wolf face. He literally has a bat nose. That is a bat mask. And Frankenstein and the Mummy are too tall.
So he wanted them all to be the exact same size.
This shit will not stand.
No, dude, I'm just like, all right, if you're going to get a little person, get a little person. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. But don't get somebody that could just be a fifth grader.
Oh my gosh.
And but yeah, so we rarely get to see the monsters do anything. There's a scene where they are very unconvincingly chasing our leads through the library.
That's my thing with this movie. If you have this idea, let me see them go into like a McDonald's and like, or let me see them adjust to like reality since they didn't exist before except in books. Like, have some fun with it. Let me see them do something.
It's an experience though, because you feel like there could be more to this movie because it's only it's only 71 minutes long.
It's an hour 14. Yeah, let them like run through a mall and like cause chaos there. Let them have some fun. They do nothing.
One might say that this movie's a little short.
Wow.
But yeah, wow. I feel like they could have done so much more with this premise, but they don't do anything with this premise. They do end up kidnapping the creepy librarian and turning her into a Valkyrie somehow.
Where there's a scene where she's like starting to pleasure herself to these like manuscripts, like it turns her on.
She's trying to fuck a book.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. PG-13 kids movie. Remember that.
I will say my favorite line. So the monsters, Phil Fondacaro he's the leader, and he pretty much starts bossing the scientists around and saying, "You need to get your shit together because we're not supposed to be this size." And they try.
Sadly, not in those words.
Yeah, and they need to get the original librarian girl, who's like the protagonist, for this to work. They locate the private detective. They're trying to like ask him where the girl is, and he says my favorite line in the movie after they like corner him. He breaks out his cross, and they just go, as vampires don't like crosses, so they go, and he's just like, "Thank God I'm Catholic," and he just leaves.
I groaned audibly. And I also don't do that a lot.
We didn't mention every scene in this film has a transition where like this like electric line of static like fades down the screen to like segue in between shots. Like every shot it cuts between this like blue electric line of electricity.
Yikes. It's we should tell people if they want to torture themselves with us, this is free on Tubi. Don't spend money on this movie. You might never get the Blu-ray.
If you want to see,
just saying. If
you want to see a great film with Phil Fondacaro, directed by Albert Band, Charles Band's father, check out Ghoulies 2, which is really fun. Great sets, a lot of awesome puppets.
And
special
we're probably going to do a commentary episode on that.
At some point we might, definitely check out Ghoulies 2, and Phil Fondacaro is great in that. So if you're gonna see a movie by one of the Band brothers with Phil Fondacaro, Ghoulies 2 is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. But so basically, the monsters get talked out of everything and go back into the machine and return the books. They beat them by talking to them. Yeah. That's the end of the movie. I want my money back. It was free. But again, like I said, if you order this on Blu-ray, Full Moon will just never send it to you. Don't do that either. Kevin, what did you fucking do to me? I thought we were friends.
He home aloned you, man.
You know what this is? This is because I talked him into buying Jess Franco's Dracula at the con, and he bought it, and it sucked. And my fault. I deserved it.
Well, I figured since we're watching The Creeps, we better talk about Night of the Creeps, written and directed by Fred Dekker, came out in 1986, because that movie rocks. So let's get into it. Chris! You have been silent, my friend. Why don't you tell us a bit about Night of the Creeps?
Oh, Night of the Creeps is a delightful movie. It's both a like tribute to sort of 50s alien invasion type movies like The Drive-In, Cheezers, at the same time being an 80s zombie movie, and it's basically a movie that like has its cake and eats it too. It's both kind of a parody of like horror movies, of cheesy horror movies, and also is one at the same time. Some fantastic effects, and a wild, drunken Tom Atkinson just running amok through the whole thing. I think this is like my favorite introduction to like Tom Atkins in a movie, where he's just like lounging on a beach chair being served like a tropical drink surrounded by women in bikinis. I don't think I realized at the time that he's the same guy from The Fog and Halloween 3.
And Maniac
because
Cop.
he's so different in these movies, just showing all kinds of range. But it's the weird thing about this movie though is that at times I think it's brilliant, and at other times I think it's it needs like a little bit of a punch up, because Tom Atkins knows exactly what movie he's in. He's just hamming it up, saying all the ridiculous one-liners that make absolutely no sense. At one point, he shoots a zombie and just says, "It's Miller time." Okay.
Yeah, like every line, he's like, "This is gonna be like a meme, like 30 years from now." Like he says every line, like he knows it's gonna be like,
it's like he predicted
immortalized
the
in a GIF.
It's because he's Tom Atkins. He invented the meme and the internet.
But I think it's pretty.
And he prefers to call them
fantastic.
dank-ass memes, by the way. He doesn't just call them memes, he calls them dank-ass memes. And he's so great in this movie. Worth the price of admission. Because at first you're like, why'd they tack an axe murderer plot into this movie? And then you're like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'll say about the film is that he's so good in it that he overshadows the main characters, whom I've seen this movie multiple times, and I always forget like the main characters, who they are and what they do, because it's kind of irrelevant.
I do think they're likable. The trio kids.
They're just likable enough. They don't really go above and beyond.
Crutch's dude got done dirty in this movie.
He does, but he's like the true hero. But Jason Lively, who is a Euro Rusty for you vacation fans.
Yes, yeah.
He's good. We also get Cynthia Cronenberg, Jill Whitlow as Cynthia Cronenberg. So Dekker named like all the characters after like horror maestros.
Yeah.
So Jason Lively plays Chris Romero. Steve Marshall is
Jill Whitlow, known as the better Amy Dolans.
Yeah. So Steve Marshall is James Carpenter Hooper, also known as JC. There's a Sergeant Raimi.
Yeah, I thought all the naming of the characters after horror directors was just a little on the nose. Like, we get it.
I think on Wiki he said he wrote this in like a week or just a very short amount of time, 8 weeks, something like that.
Like at the time it's like cool. That probably played a lot better in like '86, but now it kind of comes off as a little like student filmy. Like that's something a student film would do.
Back then, the only people getting it would be like hardcore Fangoria readers that would be pretty into it at that point. I feel like the plot is straight up a 50s movie taking place in the 80s. Aliens invade, alien slugs invade, they get in your brain, they incubate, your head explodes, but not after making you a zombie. Not until you're a zombie walking around. Then your head explodes, or if your head gets ruptured prematurely.
Oh, it's very much reminiscent of like Plan 9 from Outer Space, but just a little different.
They even reference Plan 9 from Outer Space at one point in the movie. It reminded me a lot of James Gunn's Slither too, like the tone and the plot as well.
Slither certainly was paying homage to.
It's the same kind of MacGuffin that's used in the Dead Rising games too, except they make it a bee instead of slugs. So that if you kill the slug that erupts out of someone's head, you can kill more zombies or prevent them from happening or whatever. But yeah, it's a good time. Some of the effects are great. Some of them are absolute shit. It's especially watching it now in a high def transfer where you can see a lot of the fishing lines pulling the slugs along.
I think that's charming though. I think that's charming.
If you watch this on VHS,
at the end when they turn like stop motion, it's a little like But I thought I liked all the strings. Why do you guys think this movie's not more well known? Because I feel like
because the Monster Squad came out the next year. The Monster Squad came out a year later, and everyone recognized.
Which you can see Monster Squad rules graffiti in the bathroom scene, which is cool. And you also see Striper rules graffiti, which for those
that was filmed after this, though, right? I know it released a year later, but they're kind
of filmed like around the same time.
Yeah,
it hadn't been finished yet for sure. But Striper is an 80s Christian metal band. Oh, yeah. They wore black and yellow. They all look like a bunch of fucking bees. And,
To hell with the devil.
Striper rules on the bathroom stall. And yeah, they were pretty big back then, so it made sense for them to be there. Monster Squad, not so much, but it was a nice little Easter egg in retrospect.
I was going to say, I think Monster Squad kind of perfects the tone that Fred Dekker is going for, as far as being like, I mean, this is definitely geared more a little bit towards horror, and it's, you know, it's more towards the rated R, you know, section. But I think Monster Squad more perfects his comedy monster like pulp tone that he's going for, where this one kind of is a little bit sloppy in some areas.
You got to remember though, Monster Squad, he wrote Night of the Creeps, but Monster Squad was written by Shane Black as well.
That's true.
So that
Very
probably
true.
explains why it's better for
Shane Black has a cameo in Night of the Creeps, though.
What?
Where?
I think it's in maybe the police station. I know it's in there, at least according to Wiki.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, like in this film, he reuses a line in Monster Squad that's in this film. The line in Monster Squad is 2,000-year-old dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves. And in here, it's 27-year-old dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves.
And the same payoff
great line.
with the feet hitting the ground right after that line said, an immediate cutaway, the same exact thing. And I'm just
it's kind of like an iconic moment in Monster Squad. And so I forgot that line was repeated here, but I mean, it still works.
Yeah, because I haven't seen Night of the Creeps for years, and I've seen Monster Squad like a million times.
Yeah, honestly, both, it's such an injustice that neither of these movies were really heralded when they came out. You know, they weren't really discovered, or they didn't gain a following until much later. So it's cool that we get to talk about it now. But I just think, I don't know, man. Like the heavy hitters, back then, Raimi and Carpenter and stuff, those are the films that people were seeing. But, there was so much of that back then that it was harder to make noise with like a film like this. Like if this film released nowadays, I think it would do much better probably than, maybe not in this climate, but pre-quarantine. Yeah. I think it might do much better than back then, just when that was kind of 80s, gore fest comedy thing. Horror comedies were just kind of run of the mill.
I feel like this wasn't gore fest enough because like some of the gore shots they set up don't pay off, like the fucking lawnmower. As being a fan of Dead Alive, I felt very cheated. But
they went back and refilmed some stuff because people wanted more. Did you guys see the theatrical cut or the director's cut? Like basically, the ending is different.
Director's cut, I believe.
That's the better ending.
What's the difference between the endings? Because
spoilers.
I got the alien bullshit at the ending.
That's the good ending.
It's not. No, they should have cut the second it went to the cemetery. Is that the real ending?
No, the real ending is spoilers. The theatrical ending is the dog reappears after kissing Jason Lively. She kneels down to pet the dog, and then it spits like a slug out at her, and it cuts to the credits. The director's cut is the ending with the cemetery and then the aliens. I agree you didn't really need the aliens there just going into the cemetery, but it didn't bother me. I do like that we got zombie Tom Atkins though. Yes.
Which no one else has had the balls to do to Tom Atkins.
I will say, how did we never get a Tom Atkins, Dick Miller, like, buddy cop film? Like, how did that not happen? There were, like, one sequence in this movie. It's so good. I'm like, how did you not capitalize on that? Come on, Hollywood.
Yeah.
That would have been so good.
Yeah, that would have been a good tag team right there. Shit. So basically, these alien slugs invade a frat and a sorority, and hilarity ensues. We're not getting too much into the plot because we want you to actually watch this movie.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, because The Creeps, take it or leave it. Night of the Creeps is essential viewing, in my opinion.
And JC is the best friend you could ever ask for, basically.
Oh yeah, and
that is a homie for life right there.
He kind of predates the kid who is on Walkers in Shazam. I was like, oh, yeah, somebody watch this movie.
Yeah, and he's also
watch this movie.
The single greatest wingman ever. You know, ginger ass Rusty wasn't gonna get that girl by himself. Come on.
And he ends up like, well, spoiler, I won't say.
I mean, his dad is Chevy Chase, man. He's got it tough.
I don't know though. It bothers me. His eyes are too far apart.
He was good. Leave him alone.
All I'm saying is Eric Stoltz didn't need all that makeup to play Rocky Dennis. They could have got this guy.
Wow, you're a dick.
But he gets the girl at the end. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm really not.
And Jason Lively and Jill Whitlow, they started another movie together shortly after this. I forget the name of it. Hold on. Let me check. Because I knew what it was the other day, but it didn't do well. But it came out like a year later. Called... Hold on. Ghost Chase.
I have not seen Ghost
About
Chase.
an English butler's ghost helps young filmmakers fight a Hollywood mogul for control of a studio, and they're both in it. And this came out like a year afterwards, so like it obviously wasn't a coincidence.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so it's an E.T. ripoff.
I just saw I saw like the puppet briefly, and I'm like, oh, I need to watch this.
Yeah, but the puppet is E.T. with some eyebrows and ear hair put on it.
Like E.T. meets Yoda.
No, look at that, dude. You can't tell me that's not just E.T.
I just love that they used a puppet who was just supposed to be like a ghost, but they just made him like a puppet.
No, but I gotta say though,
Ghost
fucking
puppet.
Rusty looks dope as fuck in the Ghost Chase movie, and this guy would have got the girl.
He gets the girl anyway.
He just put on sunglasses. That's all he
No,
did.
dude, look at that sick mullet though, dude. He did not have that in this movie. He was too straight laced in Night of the Creeps, I think. A little uptight, you know. Seemed like he wouldn't have known who Stryper was. But
Anyway, final thoughts for Night of the Creeps, guys.
see it immediately. 4 stars.
4 stars for me as well.
Yeah, pretty darn good. 4 stars. Just needed a Striper soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have a song in the soundtrack.
Oh, and 1.5 stars for The Creeps.
Oh God,
I forgot to rate that.
That's 1 star better than I did. Half a star for Creeps.
4 stars for the Adventure Time episode.
You know why it's half a star? Because they were only half a monster.
You're just coming out with the zings today.
Yeah. So we watch that shit. Yeah. Sometimes more literal in the sense of shit. But now, Zach, you watched something else you wanted to tell.
Yeah, I
something.
do got
Is that
a
another
review.
segment?
Yes! Welcome to Don't Cross the Streams.
That's a big Twinkie.
So there is a brand new horror movie that just released on Shudder. Very timely. It's been making waves. It is called Host. It is a film that was filmed during the lockdown. It takes place during the lockdown. And what it is essentially a more kind of organic version of Unfriended. So if you've seen Unfriended, decent little found footage flick, clever use of like the chat room.
Yeah, it sucked less than I thought it would.
Clever use of the chat room kind of device. Here, it's through Zoom, and it's about a group of friends, like 6 or so girls, and there's a guy as well.
Can I say I want that on the DVD box of Unfriended? It sucked less than I thought it would.
That's pretty much, I think that's like everyone's review of that movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Dark Web, which I heard was okay as well.
I think that might be on HBO now.
But Host, this movie is less than an hour long. It's only 57 minutes long. The plot is 6 friends during the lockdown. They decided it'd be fun to try and take part in a seance. So they hire a medium. They're doing this all over Zoom. They're all very, very likable. Again, it feels much more authentic than Unfriended, which Unfriended is good, but the setup is a little more convoluted. This is very simple. They're taking part in a seance. They're bored.
I was going to make a joke and say, what if we made the medium a little person? But Poltergeist already did that.
Some of them are a little reluctant to do it, but they're gonna have some fun. And of course, things don't go the way they planned. The way it plays out, it just feels very natural. It's just effective. It's very suspenseful, and it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Less than an hour long?
Yeah, it's less than an hour long, and it doesn't feel like it's too short though. Like it doesn't feel like you're missing out on anything. It feels like the perfect length for the story they're telling.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
Zach. I saw someone say that the best way to watch this is to watch it on your laptop because it makes you feel more like you're part of the story. Would you recommend that as well?
That's probably true. I just watched it on my desktop.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have a laptop, that would certainly be realistic because it's I think they use Zoom to record this. I'm guessing so, along with professional camera crews. But
right.
I highly enjoyed it. I don't get scared by much anymore. I'm not going to say I got scared by this, but there's some effective scenes here. They slow build, they build the atmosphere up.
It's not what he told me. He said he peed the bed last night.
Did you say that they like the premise of this movie is they're recording over Zoom because of the pandemic?
Yes, so it takes place during the lockdown.
Hey.
Yeah. So it's very timely.
How's that?
This has a very short, hopefully, relevancy window for you to watch it and get the most out of it. So you'll want to watch this right away.
It's only 57 minutes long. You can't really go wrong. It's really enjoyable.
I definitely have heard like sort of like mixed reactions to just the concept of like making a movie that takes place during the pandemic, like making a movie where people are, like living in the pandemic. And
oh yeah, no, I agree. This is something that you can only do so many times, but like they capitalized on the concept, so kudos to them.
At least it feeds
works.
into the plot. Like it's not just like a rom-com where people are wearing face masks.
Doing research. Yeah, I mean, like the actresses in this movie, their characters, they share the same names of their characters, so I was looking into it, and they all like worked on a short film together called Multiplex, which hasn't come out yet. But I have a feeling they've already filmed that, and they decided let's do this thing over the lockdown, and it came out really well.
This might be some of the budget from that movie, possibly.
That movie sounds fun too. It's like a little like a little horror comedy that takes place in a movie theater. That's a short film as well, but it hasn't come out yet. It's from one of the same writers though.
Every single film with that premise is competing with Popcorn or Demons, and no one's gonna beat Popcorn or Demons.
I think it's mostly like a scavenger hunt and some stuff happens. I don't know. It's just like that's a short film that I just researched when looking this up because I noticed they all were both in that. So that's obviously how this came together. But all the actresses are great. Nothing feels forced. Honestly, the whole thing almost feels kind of improvised in a way. I don't think it is. I'm sure it was scripted, but it's very organic. Really builds tension well. Everything happens at the exact right pace. When stuff starts to hit the fan, even that, it's still like it kind of smoothly goes into that. And there's
I just wonder if this is like the direction movies are going to be only like 50 minutes long because we're so conditioned to watch like TV shows that a movie that's an hour and a half long seems long at this point.
As the podcast advocate of chilling the fuck out about long movie times, I'm okay with this in a fashion. If I feel like a movie's still lacking from being short, it doesn't count though. So
oh yeah, for sure. When I saw that, I was like, I don't know, but this is the perfect length for this film.
And that how many stars would you give it, Zach?
I gave it 4 stars, and I could easily see people giving it higher than that. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really well done.
I've heard nothing but positive reviews from people on this movie.
It's one of the better horror films I've seen this year. Sadly, everything has been delayed, but towards the end of the year, right now, it's certainly in my top 5. For sure.
So it's that, Fantasy Islands.
I'm not going to say what else is in it. You'll have to wait till the end of the year.
Oh, and I gotta do the PSA that I did on Twitter. The La Llorona movie that is on Shudder, or about to go on Shudder, depending on when you listen to this, is not Curse of La Llorona, the piece of shit movie in the Conjuring universe that sucked. It's actually supposed to be good. It's something completely different. There's no curse of in the title, okay? Which is kind of how we got the idea for this episode with the Night of the Creeps and the Creeps. 2 very different things. So check out La Llorona on Shudder because I've heard great things, and it's a fascinating legend and story.
My pretty one.
Chris, do you have a
pretty one? La Llorona.
Chris, do you have a recommendation for Don't Cross the Streams?
Well, I have something I watched for Don't Cross the Streams.
That works.
It's gonna be a really soft. It's gonna be a really soft recommendation.
Okay.
I watched the 4-hour plus documentary on Shudder, In Search of Darkness, which is advertising itself as like the ultimate 80s horror documentary.
I've actually seen a longer version of it.
I've been curious about this.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's fine.
The end.
It's it seems like there are people out there. It seems like on Shudder they're just trying to top themselves with the documentaries, the horror documentaries. Even though it's 4 hours plus, it doesn't really serve up a lot of new information.
No,
it hits a lot of the same beats. It almost,
a lot of the movies have their own documentaries. Some of them longer than are featured in this document. Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple of things where it was like, oh, I haven't seen that movie. I need to check that out. So it was nice that I got like 3 movies to add to my watch list as recommendations.
Out of 4 hours of your life that you'll never get back.
Well, I watched it, cut up in chunks for sure.
Good.
It's almost presented as a, like, we are going year by year, starting with 1980, and going to talk through, like, every major horror release. It doesn't quite achieve that. And then with, like, each kind of, like, intermission or every hour break, it'll take a second to talk about, like, the craze in 3D in the 80s, or, talk a little bit about nudity in horror movies in the 80s, or just different aspects of it, but they don't really go too deep into any specific area. I feel like what this needed to be was like a 10 episode series where like every episode just like focuses on 1 year in the 80s, and they do a deep dive into like every horror release from each year. Like that would have been thoroughly extensive, and would have, gone into like a lot more of underseen films.
Right, because I don't know about you, but watching it, I felt angry most of the time because they kept leaving out stuff that I felt like they should have covered, and it just bothered me the rest of the documentary.
It's very slapdash too. Like the editing it feels like because I think it's also so long, it feels like a rough like a first cut. I mean, there's like a part where they interview Joe Bob Briggs, and he says like the same thing twice. Like he says one thing, and then like literally 3 minutes later they cut back to him and he says like the exact same thing. Like it's a different take, but he says the exact same thing. And it's like, clearly this feels like a first cut that just needed to be trimmed up extensively.
Yeah, they definitely released it quick, because this was like a Kickstarter kind of thing, or an Indiegogo kind of thing that got funded. And they kind of turned around and did it really fast, and Shudder bought it, which is crazy, or bought the rights to it, or however you want to talk about it. But yeah, I feel like if you want the good horror documentaries, the ones that I still point to are Never Sleep Again and Crystal Lake Memories. Those are a lot longer than this one, but I mean, it's a specific set of films, and I think that serves itself better for something that claims to be comprehensive.
Yeah, or if you're just like looking for something it's really comprehensive, unfortunately never got finished, I would look for the podcast 80s All Over, which set out to go through every single like release, every single theatrical release from the 1980s. Sadly, that podcast it got interrupted for some reason, and I can't remember why, but they got up to like 85, I think. And it's a really fun listen.
And see, I feel like if you just concentrate on theatrical releases, you're missing out on a lot of really great straight-to-video stuff, especially during that
That's
time
true,
period.
yeah. But there were still lots of things that I was just like, I have never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Which
is why you want to watch one of these documentaries. You don't want to just see people's repeating shit that you've already heard 1,000 times.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of great interviews, and there's one guy they cut back to every single time. His name is James A. Janice. Have you heard of this guy? They cut back to him like for every single major release, and he's so annoying. I was like, this guy sounds like a YouTuber, and I looked him up, and he is a YouTuber. And it's like every single thing he says sounds really, really scripted and very, very hokey. Like he's like, in Friday the 13th Part 4. Like imagine a talking head. Like, he acts like he's narrating the thing, but he's just a talking head, and he's like, in Friday the 13th Part 4, Tommy Jarvis shows up as blah, blah, blah. It's like, this guy's so fucking annoying. Like, everyone else feels pretty natural, but he's just, like, so fake.
There's a fairly bad Pet Sematary documentary out there. And
okay.
Kevin, who recommended The Creeps, and I both watched it at the same time, and he's like, dude, you gotta check this out. The motherfucker they keep talking to, that you don't know who he is the guy that made the movie, making himself a talking head that keeps coming in and out of the movie. And I'm like, oh god, it's a bad move.
You know what you should watch instead of this? I think it's on YouTube, on the TV station Bravo. Like 15 years ago, they made a documentary countdown that was like the 100 scariest movie moments or something like that. And that's a fun watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fun watch. They got a lot of good interviews.
What was
for
that other series? I know it wasn't specifically in horror films, but the movies that made us. Was that like
it's
AMC?
Garbage. It's
Garbage?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh,
It's Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is a bad. That's bad.
I would say the toys that made us much better.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of toys, I have the first ever toy review for this podcast. That's not a video podcast.
I was wondering why you were just holding up a can of shaving cream.
Oh, because Chris.
You didn't say the magic
Oh my
word.
god.
It is
Awesome.
secretly the Dennis Nedry Jurassic Park Comic-Con exclusive, and the reason it works for this podcast is because he
Take a
talks.
cheap on me, Dodson.
That's awesome.
It does not disperse shaving cream, though.
Appreciated my time. Dodson, we got Dodson here.
Pretty amazing.
Oh, it's awesome.
Say the magic word.
So what they did is they got a 3 3/4 inch Nedry figure that I'm just pointing towards the camera so these guys can see it. But he's a Comic-Con exclusive. They shipped him in a semi-realistic looking Barbasol
Fooled me.
Barbasol container, but when you turn it, you get lights and sounds of Nedry,
Magic word.
and you can make him say different things by pushing down on the shaving
Oh my
cream.
gosh.
Fucking
Have you
amazing.
guys discovered the Jurassic Park Twitter yet?
Yes, it's
Yes.
hilarious.
It's my
Tremendous.
favorite tweet so far is it just said, "Hey, I just found a can of shaving cream."
I'd say like the realistic nature of it is that someone has worked in a theme park that runs that account as well. Zach and I both have worked in a theme park,
Oh man,
and
briefly, but
not-
Chris
I
has
worked in a
too.
theme park.
Chris
Oh,
has too.
Chris, you did too.
He
Which
worked
one did
Horror
you work
Nights,
at?
man.
I worked
Oh,
Halloween
shit.
Horror Nights.
The same one we
Okay.
did.
So we all worked the same theme park. Okay.
Were you a monster, Casey?
And I wish. No, I just worked on the Simpsons ride.
Oh,
I
so
could've
I'm
been
the
a
only one who was
monster.
a monster.
I was there for
Yeah.
2 months, and then I opted out.
I would have been able to if I wanted to work overtime, but I would have been just like a druid in a robe telling people where to go. So I'm like, forget it.
I got to scare people. It was fucking awesome.
Dude, you would have had so much
that
fun
is
being a
awesome.
druid in a robe, Casey. You would have
Yeah.
just like told people to go the wrong way.
I would have guided them directly into the monsters.
Zach, I'm gonna have to send you a picture of me as a clown from Horror Nights, and you'll have to post that to our Twitter.
Dude,
Okay,
that
for
should
sure.
be our,
I remember
that should
seeing
be
them
our
when you
show
were there.
photo for this week. No, actually, our show photo.
Speaking of Halloween Horror Nights, it was officially canceled. Sad to say.
Yeah.
Obviously, understandably.
see that
but
coming.
it's-
honestly,
it's
we
such a
saw
bummer.
it coming, right? But okay, let's have a post-mortem for all the things we were going to do this year that have been canceled.
Well, pretty much
so-
any cool Halloween event that's out here.
No,
South by
Zach,
Southwest.
I have a list of ones that Zach and I were gonna actually go to. So first was the Creature Bazaar that happened right when the
These are
right when the
conventions. Yeah.
pandemic started off. That was a convention for art toys with like a monster bend to them, and it was the first time they were ever gonna do it, and canceled. So then there was Monster Palooza and Son of Monster Palooza, both canceled. Midsummer Scream, that one hurt too. And,
That one hurt a lot because Midsummer Scream was awesome.
WonderCon, that hurt a lot because Zach and I had free tickets for that shit.
Yep.
Yeah, and we were gonna cover all of these on the show, and now we can't. But I gotta tell you guys something cool. You can't go to cons, you can't see this stuff in person. I want to kick you guys over to distortionsunlimited.com. These are guys that make stuff for haunts and masks and stuff, and they've been doing it since the 80s. You've probably seen their guy that thrashes around in an electric chair 1,000 places,
Yeah.
animatronic. They get on their mailing list because this time of year they will send you videos of their animatronics working, and it's just like a little slice of happiness every couple days when they send it. The one I sent Zach to check out was a giant Yeti hand that's like bigger than a person, and it grabs at you.
That thing was gnarly, man.
Yeah, pretty cool. So I wanted to point everyone in their direction just so you could get a little bit of that Halloween happiness starting off a little early, because I consider the start of the Halloween season August 1st. So we are balls deep in the Halloween season, son. Even though all my trips to Target, no Halloween stuff yet.
I've heard
Halloween
that.
stuff.
I've heard that it's out at like the 99-cent store.
I haven't been there yet. I'm still trying to kind of like go to places at weird times so I can social distance better, you know? So
I am gearing up to break out my Halloween decorations, and when I do, I will post that stuff on Twitter.
yeah, honestly, like any of our Halloween finds will go on Twitter, so you will want to follow us. I'm at Lucha Gringo. Zach, tell them yours. Chris, tell them yours.
We're doing this now. Twitter.com/Earth2Zach, Earth the number 2, Zach, Z-A-K, or our official Twitter.com/MPOS official. That's for Another Miserable Podcast. Chris, your Twitter account, sir.
I'm at Chris Pistol, and I was supposed to go to South by Southwest this year and see Bob Dylan, and that did not happen.
Oh, man.
Oh,
You win. Or lose, I guess.
I don't know, man. Midsummer Scream was pretty cool last year. You know
Midsummer
what I mean?
Scream, I was really excited for that. Man.
Why?
The only like Halloween like attraction event that's still going as of now that hasn't been canceled is the Los Angeles Haunted Hayride, which I cannot imagine the cluster F that's going to be if it goes on. But
Oh God, you must have like 3 people in each car.
we are still getting Spirit Halloween stores. Apparently, they are still coming, which is cool if they socially distance and it's safe enough. But
Yeah, I mean,
those
every
stores are
other
usually
store-
those stores are usually pretty empty. But
Yeah.
Probably won't have a
Yeah.
little walk-through haunted thing.
it's a sprig of Halloween, and I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, and if we go to one, we will take pictures, and if it's not on our individual accounts, Zach will post them.
And if you're into
Either
like
way.
Halloween snackage, there's some good stuff coming out this year.
Dude, yes. Okay, so I am on the lookout for Witch's Brew Kit Kats, which are green. I'm on the lookout for the Frankenstein Reese's cups that they just kind of made the bottom part green, so when you look at it sideways, it looks like Frankenstein's head with the flat top and shit. And I forget who's making the candy vampire fangs this year, but someone's making candy vampire fangs, like chocolate vampire fangs that are white chocolate, and they actually look kind of cool. I forget who that is.
It'll be out later this month.
From Chris's confectionery, the fang candy. I gotta give shout outs to some of the lesser known Halloween candy though that's out there that I look for every year. I don't know the company that makes it, but they make this bag, and I can only find them at grocery stores like sometimes, right? So what they have is, Zach, you might have had some of mine. I might have given you some of these. There's skulls, there's witches, and then there's like a zombie, I think, or a pumpkin. And they're each different flavors, but they're like super detailed chocolate candy. Like it's a white chocolate skull and he's got like eyeballs and shit. And that's fudge flavor.
You didn't give me anything that cool. You gave me those Pop Rocks that I forget, like the Kool-Aid Pop Rocks.
Oh, Kool-Aid Pop Rocks, we're legit. We're legit. I'm really into sharing the candy when I get it, but by the time I send it to Chris, it would be soup.
Are
Unfortunately.
you into the Halloween branded candies, Chris, or snacks? You into that stuff?
You know, I need to branch out for some more candy. A couple of years ago, I got the nostalgia kick and got me some Count Chocula. I'm sorry, guys, that's not a good cereal. It does not. It tastes not good at all.
Blasphemy. I love it. I buy the Monster cereal every year, and I stock up a whole cupboard because it lasts until April.
They didn't really.
As long
Have
as
they
you
released a
go
new
to buy it.
design this
Chocolate
year?
dog food.
Have they released a new design this year?
Maybe. So because they've been showing the fruit snacks boxes make it look like they're doing some kind of retro thing this year. But they're different than last year's, which were the same as the year before. So at least they're changing it up this time.
So are there any other things we're missing out on this year because of the current quarantine COVID crisis?
I don't want to keep talking about that.
It
in
is
this
a
podcast
bummer.
on an upper.
It is.
Yeah,
it is a
it's
bummer.
like- I mean, what aren't we missing out on? Okay, so yeah, we're missing out on fucking. That's where you end the podcast right there, Zach. But end it
Wow.
after I say this line.
The last few Halloweens for me have been me holed up in my house eating candy and watching horror movies. So I feel like this Halloween will be just the same.
Well, you have a
Nothing will change for me.
You have a girlfriend to do that with now, so
Exactly.
should be a little better.
She's
A
never
lot better,
seen
I think.
Halloween.
Oh, you got to change that, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's happening.
You're like, I'm locking the door. There's no escaping.
Yes. This is happening.
Just take a seat.
I've been slowly introducing her to Vincent Price, which has been nice.
Have you watched The Monster
Yes.
Club yet?
Not yet.
You have to. Yeah, honestly, this October, Monsters Rule OK is just going to be on repeat like 24/7. That's happening.
I just don't want to get to
Honestly-
the point where I've seen every single Vincent Price movie
Yeah.
and realize there are no new ones left. It's going to be sad.
It'll take a while.
It's like when I watched the last Stanley Kubrick movie. It's like, no more? There's no more?
It's like when I watched the last Fred Dekker movie, all 4 of them, 3 of them.
I still got to see Predators. I still got to watch it.
It's decent. I enjoyed it.
Predators.
Yeah, it's not great. Definitely not my favorite Predator-related thing. That would actually probably be the video game. I love it. Also, if you want to play Fall Guys, hit up me and Zach on PSN. He's Earth to Zach, just like his Twitter. I'm Lucha Gringo, just like my Twitter. Chris, we got to get you to play this game, dude. We can tie it to the show because you can make your character.
You're going to have to
look like
buy him a
spooky
PS4
werewolf.
then, Casey.
I've already done that for my other podcast, and we have way more people chipping in, so it's not gonna happen here. But yeah, it's basically a video game version of Takeshi's Castle. If you don't know what Takeshi's Castle is, look it up. No, it's not MXC. Fuck you, Zach.
MXC used footage from Takeshi's Castle. That's what that show is based around. So
Yeah, just remember, Beat Takeshi is the man and is better than anything MXC has ever done.
All right, let's wrap this thing up.
okay, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do love your requests, and if you want to send in any requests to us,
your requests. I don't love your requests.
please send us your requests. So any horror films, any films, TV series you'd like to see us cover, any like discussion questions you want us to talk about certain subjects.
Okay, hold up. I'm not watching a whole TV series. No.
I'm not asking you to watch a whole TV series, Casey. I'm saying a certain series you want us to talk about. We're going to talk about Erie, Indiana at one point. That's going to happen.
What if it's Hannibal?
Oh, okay.
What if it's Hannibal?
Fuck yeah. Okay, maybe. We got to watch Something Weird too, because that's on Disney Plus as well. That show was pretty good.
So if you
So
do want,
weird?
if you do want to send us recommendations,
Yes, I'm sorry. Something Weird is never going to be on the Disney Channel. My bad.
Yeah, So Weird is the Disney Channel show, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty good. Okay, so and if you want to send us in any requests or talk about on the show, do a commentary on, you can just leave us a comment on our Twitter page, twitter.com/MPOSofficial, our YouTube page, just look us up under Another Miserable Podcast, or either or any of our personal Twitter accounts. You can find us there. Or Instagram if you want to hit one of us up on Instagram. Pretty much anywhere, guys.
I don't have an Instagram. The Lucha Gringo on Instagram is very much
Maybe
not me.
one
That's
of
my
these
friend
days
Gabe.
soon, I will make a poll on twitter.com/MPOSofficial, and you can vote on maybe the next film we'll do a commentary on. That sounds like an idea.
Halloween H2O.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Ghoulies 2. Ghoulies 2.
I smell a poll. I smell a poll. That sounded wrong.
I have so many jokes that I'm not going to
Stop
make
smelling that pole, Zach.
That sounded
Get
so
your nose
wrong.
away from the pole.
Okay, guys, we got a big episode next time because it's episode number 30 for us. I know it seems like we've been doing this so much longer than 30 episodes, but we only do like twice a month, sometimes 3 with the commentary there. So, but 30 is a big number for us, so we'll have something interesting planned potentially, maybe, sort of. Okay, have an awesome weekend, guys. Please stay safe. Please continue to wear your masks so we can get over this thing.
Yeah, don't fuck up our Halloweens, dicks.
We
Wear
will
your
be
masks.
celebrating Halloween in big style here. I can make that promise to you. We're going to have lots of fun, so stay tuned for that. All right, guys. Have an awesome weekend.